Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got ELDO on the agenda, and ELDO takes place at El Dorado Park or something or other. It's like a community park up in Long Beach, California. I was actually driving about 1,000 miles, 1,100 miles or something, up to Seattle to race track bikes at JB Velodrome. More to come on that in the next few videos. But yeah, I decided to skip LA traffic and pop into the hottest practice crit. I guess maybe it's not technically a practice crit because it is USAC sanctioned, but overall this is kind of just everybody out here getting race experience up in LA area. You know, everybody's riding with the hitters, so this is a good opportunity for a lot of your Cat 3 folks like myself to get in with, you know, a lot of Cat 1 dudes. There's a lot of experience here. Rasan Bahati usually rides this one, or at least he's out and about, you know, offering up tips to some of the Cat 3 folks, amongst others. Sharon Smith is in this field, Nigel DeSoto, my boy Rex Roberts ride bikes. So just a lot of dudes that have a lot of races under their belt. So while I guess this is technically USAC sanctioned, I definitely see it and saw it as, you know, kind of a Tuesday night practice crit. And that's basically what I'm out here doing, man. Trying to get better and see what's up. So right out of the gate, guys, this thing is friggin' hot, man. So my power numbers for the night were pretty absurd. I think the first 12 minutes of this race, I looked down and saw that I was doing like 312 watts. Now, 312 watts raw average in 12 minutes of racing is like pretty freaking gnarly, considering a lot of it is like surging, slowing down, and everything else. So the tough part about the series for me, I guess you would say, is I didn't really have any idea what the deal was with the field. So I know there are some strong dudes in here, and I know that, you know, the brakes are gonna go early and stuff's gonna get brought back, but what you guys are gonna see in a couple minutes is just like the gnarliest group of individuals is up the road, and I didn't know that there was dudes strong enough in this group to bring those guys back. So the ELDO series leader in the yellow jersey just popped up the road. A couple other guys go with. People start chasing, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna follow Mo here in the Canes kit in front of me, and you know, I'll do a little bit of work here to help bring this thing back. Racing solo, no teammates, just trying to kind of sit in, maybe hide a little bit, but obviously I'm not very good at doing that. So learned a lot of lessons early in this one, and as you'll see, we're chasing pretty good here. Coming into this backside section, there's a pretty heavy wind, and it's coming from the right side here. So I was still kind of gauging that. This is, you know, first couple laps, feeling it out, seeing what's up, you know, trying to understand where the wind's coming from, where I should be riding. And obviously this flex rider on my left, he knows and understands where the wind's coming from. I did not. But if you look behind me in the rear cam, I've got Frank Martucci on my wheel, also another super fast dude, a lot of experience. And then we've got a gap. So I didn't realize that we had a gap at the time. We're kind of like the chase group. There's a little break up the road, but that break is super threatening, man. It's got all the right people in it. So I was kind of worried. I'm pretty sure at this point, Nigel's up the road, maybe even Rex. And then at one point, I think Brandon York goes up the road. He's another like pretty strong SoCal dude. He kind of blew through like Cat 4-2 or something in a really short amount of time. He's been winning a bunch of races, riding really, really well. So this is definitely like a little bit of alarm bells, which is probably why it's so strung out and we're just drilling. But if you look at my power numbers, dude, I don't think they've gone below like 400 watts the whole friggin' time. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about how this P1-3 ELDO Crit is gonna pan out. We are still drilling. It has been, you know, over half a lap. This is really only a 3-corner course. The other is like a really long sweeping corner. And, you know, right on cue, just as we start to slow down a little bit and hit kind of this, you know, tailwind, crosswind section that we're coming into, we're about to turn into it, I guess, and go past these bumps. we get attacked by this Go Fast rider in the purple kit. There's a Clemson kid on his wheel, also pretty fast. And I know that we still have a little bit of a gap, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna roll with these riders that are bridging. And if you look, this effort is gonna do me dirty. I am still doing everything I can to get across. I'm like, okay, 700 watts, that seems reasonable. Spoiler alert, not a reasonable effort at all. I've settled in here to like 420, but yeah, man, I can't get across by myself, so I flick through. I'm like, all right, somebody else has got to do a little bit of work here for me. And I look back and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna sustain this. This break is way too big, but it's kind of a weird thing that we're doing here. So there are other races on the course during this practice crit, and they don't really neutralize. You just kind of pass them because the paces are so dramatically different. But what you'll see is all the riders on the left passing right now, they're just kind of like flying by me and whatever. I know the field or the main group is still behind me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the dudes that I can ride with, because these like pro 1-2 guys are just blowing me off their freaking wheel. So I drop back here with the rest of the pack, and I'm looking, and man, I think I was just seeing red and went full bonehead here, and like, I don't even know what happened, but I keep looking, and then I look and I don't realize that this is the back of the field. And then I look one more time right there, you saw my head movement, and I was like, oh, that's the back of the field. Now I start kind of trying to catch back on here, and I'm like kind of babying it because we're coming into this corner. Well, I didn't really think about the fact that, like I said before, all these are super sweeping chill corners, and in this weird like heavy crosswind section, this is a spot that everybody liked to attack all day long. And so I came out of that corner and I was like, oh, they didn't really slow down. So I'm absolutely hammering to get back on. I'm still doing 400 watts, but I had just done 400 something down that whole straight after my 700 watt stupid chase effort to try and jump across with those guys that were bridging. So I'm exploding right here. I'm at like 180 BPM. And this is just not sustainable for me. And so you just see the pain. Like, you can imagine what's going on in my head right now as I see this gap just get a little bit larger and a little bit larger. And so now I'm making like the critical decision. I'm like, do I just bury myself and try and get back to this? Do I just ride tempo and hope to God that they lap me in a couple laps? Am I gonna get pulled? I don't know, man, but all this stuff's going through my head, and I'm like, Jesus, this was not the openers I really thought I was gonna have for this this coming Friday, Saturday, you know, track Grand Prix that I had to race in Seattle. A little bit harder, a little bit hotter than I thought it was gonna be. So I back off right here, and basically I solo TT for, I don't know, 3 or 4 laps. Had to make it look good for the USAC official, you know, and get all TT mode and do 300 watts through the start finish so that he wasn't like, hey, you're not riding hard enough. So I just keep drilling for a little bit, and you know, I'm not gonna show you guys me hanging out off the back. I do eventually get lapped by the field, and then I jump back on, and for some reason I was fine after that. So let's jump ahead to that. Now, I've been TTing by myself for about 10 minutes of the race. It's only a 50-minute crit. You can see the field is starting to come by me on the left. Sharon's there on the front doing a little chase. You got the series leader, Nigel, all the hitters I talked about before, man. They're just up in the front, making it not actually that hard. They came by me kind of slow, which was, oh my gosh, thank you so much for that. So they were doing like 22 miles an hour. It made it much, much easier to slot back in. But yeah, now that things have sort of let up and everybody's chilled out a little bit, it was actually pretty easy for me to just sit on and not do like a ton of crazy work. And so I wanted to play the efficiency game a little bit here and just kind of move around in the pack and, you know, see what I could do. So, you know, it is still hard. Like I said before, we're in that weird like crosswind, headwind section that was happening. So, you know, I'm trying to shelter myself now that I know where the wind is coming from, and I'm doing a pretty decent job of that. One thing I want to mention is the field is not huge. I think it was like 25 or 30 guys, which is not a massive field size. So a usual P1-3 crit, when you have this kind of pedigree, you would be able to hide a 100th wheel and be drugged through the corners at, you know, 31 miles an hour. But that was not the case for this one. And you can see, man, it's always getting blown apart. There are gaps popping up everywhere, and it's like, I know in my head somebody else should close those gaps, and I should not do that, but I get race brain and I get kind of dumb sometimes when stuff like this happens, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should close that gap. So I just need to get better at having confidence that others are gonna go ahead and close it for me and not be the guy that everybody kind of goats into, like, you know, doing the work. So I did 800 watts there, burned a match for what, you know? Eventually somebody is gonna come across. So lesson learned on that one. Now I have resigned myself to chilling, or at least I thought so, but I've recovered. So guess what? I'm you know, feeling spunky again. And so I take a pull here, but I know this opens me up to being attacked. So I didn't want to pull too hard, yet I'm still doing over 400 watts for some reason. Really though, at this point, I'm just trying to match this acceleration on the right and make sure that, you know, that attack or brake, like, it doesn't get too far up the road. And so then I can also match the, like, speed of the people accelerating beside me. So I had to do 800 watts there to find Rex's wheel, but as you guys will see in a second, I do get that little bit of shelter from the wind, even though Rex is about arrow as hell. And we get across to the dudes that were trying to attack the field there and start up their own little shake and bake break situation. So I have been going pretty hard, and I realize, yo, it's time to filter back in the pack and find a wheel. But nonetheless, I was kind of recovered, and so I wanted to drill and get the workout in here. So I did just that. I was supposed to sit in at this point because I was pretty toast, but we wanted to kind of finish up the effort here, and I want to make sure that I stayed in kind of the front of the mix as we're getting into, like, the later stages of the race. We're getting down to it here, and as you guys will see, there is a very threatening break up the road. I realize that we only have about 10 to 15 minutes left in this race, and so I'm thinking in my head, like, yo, this might be the break that sticks. I don't know if breaks stick at ELDO. Like, it doesn't seem like the course where that would happen, but I don't know. Maybe it would. So I'm thinking, like, okay, it's this weird crosswind, headwind, tailwind, whatever, or headwind section. And if I attack into that, as soon as this dude sits up, I can come across to said threatening break. And so I do just that. I bring the leader with me, and I'm like, ooh, dope. All right. And then they kick again, and I was like, oh, whoopsie. And I also look back and I realized that, like, a lot of people from the field kind of did the same thing and jumped. And so now I'm like, dude, what am I supposed to do? You know, I just jumped to get across to it and basically buried myself with like 10 minutes left in the race. And so now I'm like, all right, the whole field came along with me. Maybe that wasn't the smartest thing I did, but at the same time, it was like that was the last point to sort of get across to something. And had I had more fitness, keeping the train rolling with, I think Frank is up the road still, that probably would have been a really good move, kind of countering that, like, late race break. So at this point, I'm just understanding that things are going to get real spicy and real hot. I'm going to try and hang on as long as I possibly can. And that takes us into what is going to be the last couple laps. So we'll jump ahead to sort of the finish and see what happens there. Welcome to the last lap, where things go from bad to worse. No, but really, guys, we're catching some folks, and this is like kind of the last, you know, 3 corners, or, you know, the last back half of the lap. And I'm trying to maintain good position here, but like I said, it's the last lap, so the pace is super hot. I'm definitely not going to pull through here, but I make kind of another fatal error, and honestly, this is just because I'm at like 180 BPM and I don't have the gas. So those guys pull off. I kind of slot to the right behind them instead of just pulling through and continuing to drill and leading it out. And I'm like, you know, looking for a spot to slot in here. I'm like, okay, can I get involved in this sprint? Like, obviously I'm a lap down, so it doesn't really matter what I do here, but I still need to get like practice in those sprint finishes in the field. But at this point, man, I realize, I'm like, yo, I am not going to be competitive in this. Like, I really didn't have the gas to get back into the group. So that's kind of all she wrote for me, folks. They take off, and, you know, they're coming in the last corner right here. And then this is going to be the field sprint. And honestly, I just couldn't hang on anymore. I was absolutely blown up. So this is ELDO for you guys. The crit practice from hell. I have to say, those boys do not mess around up there. You know, it's funny, I can race with them on the weekends at CBR, but it's very clear that I am definitely not a pro Cat 1 guy just yet. Still getting in the reps as a Cat 3. No shame in my game, though. The only way you're going to get faster, guys, is by popping out to stuff like this and getting your freaking ass kicked. So I highly recommend it. If you're in the area, check out ELDO, guys. It's a really good time. Community's super friendly. But yeah, great series. I got in a great workout, and I think it brushed me up a little bit for the Friday, Saturday Omnium situation. So I'm just gonna roll it to the line here, and I think I take 20th out of 22 guys at the end of this thing. But yeah, I got dropped like a sack of potatoes. So onward to Seattle. Stay tuned, subscribe to the channel if you want to check out all these videos I have coming soon. I'm probably gonna break up that Omnium of track racing into like a bunch of different videos because the racing was very dynamic. I did Kieran. Man, I did points race elimination, Cat 3, IO, raced against the Masters Kira National Champ. So there's a bunch of stuff coming, guys. And I'm also racing this coming Sunday, the CBR finale up here in, out here in like the LA area, Irvine, California. It's a new Grand Prix. That should be fun. Anyway, guys, if you want to help out the channel and you appreciate what I'm doing here with the race commentary, smash that like button for me. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Hope you enjoyed ELDO. Watch out for geese.